Hey, good morning, Kevin. It must be Friday because we're here on Around the Horn.
That's it. Exactly right.
Yep, yep.
Another week down. What number is this?
Number 15. Number 15. So,
Yeah, and some people still show up. That's pretty cool.
well, at least we here, right? So there's at least two of us here.
That's right.
No, but yeah, we have. There definitely there's definitely more and more people showing up. So,
Yeah,
um,
we
just keep
learned
at it.
last week. We learned last week what's kind of interesting. This whole evolution of all of this with how LinkedIn does things, right? We don't get great information back, but we got some really neat comments after last week's broadcast ended from some pretty powerful people in the industrial world that we're on. So you don't have to click the clearly you don't have to click the attending button to pop in and join us. So it's kind of neat to see that. So hey, but before we get going, Tom, I was going to kind of do our weekly little bit of an intro to why we're here. So I'm Kevin Brown. That's Tom Burton. We're the co-founders of LeadSmart Technologies. We have developed over the last few years fairly innovative in industry or vertical specific CRM and customer intelligence solution, as well as some partner and channel collaboration tools. We get together on Friday mornings and we talk about what's going on throughout the world of wholesale distribution, because there's so many facets of that across industrial, safety, construction, building materials, electrical, HVAC, medical, food products, whatever it might be. We get all this data that comes into us every week about what's going on. So we decided to consolidate some of that. We send out an email every Friday morning with what we call Around the Horn, which is this same broadcast that we do. And we talk about what's happening in wholesale distribution. So if you're watching us, whether it's live here Friday morning on October 28th, or you are seeing this on YouTube, Facebook, and or LinkedIn Live as a recording, send us a note. If you'd like to be on that newsletter, you can send us a note through a DM there, DM direct message here this morning in our comment section, or hello@leadsmarttech.com. So that's my little plug for what we're doing here. I always like to kind of give people a little feedback on why we're here.
Like, why the heck are these guys here?
That's right. You're those two old dudes that just chatting about stuff, right?
Yeah.
Good. So let's look at the news, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good. So first one that we shared with people this morning, again, this goes out to about 8,000 people or so each week. So if you're not getting us, let us know. But, we split things up into kind of news that's tied to the economy, technology, and so forth. And then some stuff that's industry specific each week. And this first one that we posted, you might kind of think, well, PayPal shares rise after Amazon adds Venmo. Who cares, right? I sell building materials or hard hats or medical devices. But the reality of it is, if you dig into that a little bit, what we're seeing is this migration that's kind of happening with folks about how they pay, right? How people want to buy. I was visiting earlier this week. I was in Denver. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And I was visiting with one of our newer customers. It's a building materials company, and they were talking to us about literally how they get orders from people that can be electronically driven, right, through an e-procurement process. It could be a spreadsheet getting sent to them with items that they want quotes on, or literally written on a piece of drywall. Well, that's a pretty broad spectrum, right? Because 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you might have said, well, we get a whole lot of legal pad scribble of what people want to buy or get quotes on. And, it might be even on a piece of plywood or something that they said, scrap that says, check this for me. But every day we get closer to this place where, mobile ordering, e-procurement, mobile payments, and so forth is going to become more and more important. And the beauty of that is folks in wholesale distribution that start embracing that early, right, are in a position that differentiates themselves to allow the customer to procure things, purchase things, or I should say, or pay for things the way they want to, not the way we've historically done business.
Yeah, we've even seen that even with our partner Moblico, right? And their solution is it's more proprietary versus this is obviously Venmo being a much broader solution. But it's all about convenience, right? So and omni-channel, as we've talked about many times, I think that definition keeps getting broader and broader all the time, because you could argue that Venmo is yet just another way, another channel for somebody to, in this case, handle a transaction. But as we said before, omni-channel isn't just about transactions; it's about how you shop and how you get information.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more on that. And I think it's important for people to realize, as we bang this drum all the time, right, about millennial buyers being predominant in the marketplace. If they're not already, they will be very shortly, depending on which research you read. And they want to do things a little bit differently. So having that not only omni-channel research and purchase, or quote request options, but even that mobile payment option is going to be really great. And this ties into, it just triggered in my head, Tom. It's kind of interesting. And you know how this goes, right? Off I go on things, but we did 2 weeks in a row. We had some information regarding wind supply and their testing with drones, right? So, if you think about it, we're moving towards a place where you could be on a construction site or in a factory somewhere and something breaks down. You could be, maybe it's a half-hour drive or something like that into the closest distributor. They're not in a position to deliver. You could, in theory, right from your from your device, go order that part that is holding up a job, place the purchase order, drone shows up, drops off that bearing that's keeping a piece of equipment from moving, which has stopped the job or a process, and pay for it right from a mobile device. I mean, that's where we're headed, right? I
that's really parachuting in, right? That's parachuting exactly what you need.
But there's people testing all of that already, right? And it just kind of goes to this conversation that we have kind of week after week, that things are changing. Are we changing with it to address that, what our customers' needs are? And as we often say too, is, what are our incoming employees expecting from us? So this whole PayPal thing, I don't want to spend all morning on it, but it's just kind of interesting, this adoption of this mobile payment platform. And to your point, our good friends at Moblico have that built into their mobile messaging service as well, where they offer a unique mobile payment solution. So that's kind of cool too. So, Tom, let's jump past this. I think everybody's watching the economy closely but there's just some info on home sales and the drop there that's going on. That's kind of be suspected or expected in that setting. But, there's trends about what's going on with global supply chain issues. And it's kind of interesting. If you were to look at that, the value or the challenge that's going on, I should say, right now in supply chain things, right? I live here in Southern California. I've mentioned many times being able to, I live about 40 miles south of the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And, this summer we had ships stacked up all the way down there. We are waiting to get in line to get into the port. That's easy. We're reading about that and we're seeing about that. Part of it is maybe in some facets of the economy, things are slowing down possibly. But this is a really nice article with some trends that they're seeing. And one of the things that I caught in there, there's kind of two critical points. But the first one that I recognized in there that I really liked was that the concept that it's kind of scary, right? That says, well, we've been short on everything. I've got a lifelong friend that's in the supply chain world as well. He's here from Hawaii, staying with us. He's here at the house today. And he was just talking about some of the vendors that he works with that are just still clobbered by supply chain issues in the electrical industry. But now one of the comments is that we could be in for a glut of inventory because all of this stuff is going to hit at once, right? I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you get a chance to read that?
Yeah, no. Well, and it was even funny. They said we may have a glut of ships, right? Yes. Because we've all of a sudden, right? Everyone's scrambled to make ships or is making ships. Those are coming off the line. And so there may be more ships than there are, we start to reduce inventory, right? There'll be ships with nothing to do. So, we tend to move from one extreme to the other.
That's right. Well, and I think, we become extremely responsive and maybe over responsive in some of those settings. But, the crux of that at the end of it was talking about later next year, things would be starting to look much more positive and much more balanced. Yeah. Balance is, I think, what we need in this. So, hey, Tom, before we jump on, somebody, we don't have a name with this, just says LinkedIn user. commented here about the previous discussion we were having about, job site ordering and stuff like that. So they commented there, the value of uptime, and uptime being that we're constantly work isn't being interrupted on a job site will open up revenue streams for suppliers who stay on the front end of this. And don't know who that is that wrote that, but thank you, because could not be more alignment with that, right? And that's some of the large national distributors have said this for years and years, is that, that's their role by having many warehouses with lots of inventory, is they want to be the supplier that keeps you up and running and keeps you up and working. So thank you for that comment, because I couldn't agree with that more. Is if you're on the front end of this stuff, you're going to be much more valuable.
We talked about this last week with Brian, right? About, why would somebody buy from a local or regional distributor versus Amazon? Well, that's exactly why, right? Yeah. Is that ability to have that convenience and that just-in-time support, and that, hey, I need it right this second, and having the right things at the right time, right? That's not something that Amazon's ever going to probably do very well. Yep. So it's another way to differentiate, like we were talking about last week on when we were talking more with Brian.
Yeah, and I'm excited that, just back to that, for anybody that's with us today that wasn't with us last week, we had Brian Beck on, who's a kind of very well-known expert on e-commerce as it ties to B2B and distribution, keynote speaker. If you didn't get a chance to catch that last week, it's on the Lead Smart Technologies page on LinkedIn, as well as on our YouTube channel, and you should watch. That's well worthwhile. We've got, as you mentioned, this upcoming webinar that we're going to do about distribution and B2B distribution related to e-commerce coming up. What is that? The 9th? Is that what was settled on?
Yeah, the 9th. Yep.
Good. So we'll get that information out. We'll talk about it again next week, and because that'll be early the following week, but we'll do the promotion that goes with that. But yeah, that's key. And what's interesting with this is, the reminder. I remember you and I were in an event with one of our key customers in February, where Ian Heller from the Distribution Strategy Group was talking about that in some of his slides. You're not going to be able to call Amazon to come out to a construction site to show you how to use that piece of equipment, right? Or to pop in to show you the proper use of a cutting tool, or to fit test a respirator, or whatever it is. So, our traditional distribution, B2B distribution, still has that great place in the marketplace. But I'm happy that the supply chain trends are changing. So that's really good news. Yeah. So let's talk about what's going on around the industry a little bit. Some good news popping up here, right? We just about every week we're talking about or posting something with some M&A type stuff, merger and acquisition. So Martin Supply is acquiring Quality Mill Supply. It was kind of funny. We're going to talk in a little bit about some of the events that I'm just coming back from, having been for the last, I guess this week was fourth week in a row, or either fourth week in a row or 4 out of 5 weeks that I've traveled, which is so odd with post-COVID to travel that much. And by the way, I don't like it. Just FYI, as my business partner. So don't think that I like that. But as I was getting ready to leave the event I was at in Denver this week, which we're going to talk further about, Eric Ruggles from Martin Supply was 2 tables over from me, and we got to chat for a few minutes about this acquisition. And it was funny. I was thinking about, maybe I'll grab some lunch on the way to the airport versus here at the hotel. No, I just decided to eat lunch at the hotel, and there was Eric a few tables over, and 3 tables over there was Tom Gale from Modern Distribution Management. So had some good chats at the end of the event that we'll talk about shortly. But it's neat to watch this going on, right? There's and some of the acquisitions are not that they're distressed companies necessarily. Some of them are just really good acquisition targets and or mergers that we're seeing going on out there that are making companies stronger. Maybe, and I don't know enough about this. I didn't ask Alex about it when we were talking, but it could be in this setting that maybe there are some things that Quality Mill Supply did that were complementary that maybe Martin wasn't as good at. So we're seeing a lot of that. We see here at the last one there about in the roofing and metal supply arena, there's another acquisition there. So, that to me is, if we saw this happening constantly with only distressed companies, it would worry me about the economic impact and are these companies getting squashed? But I think the reality of this is many of these deals are not because there's economic factors. They're just good roll-ups. They're good mergers and or acquisitions. So it's nice to see this happening. And then obviously, before I go on, I was going to talk about Applied, but any thoughts on M&A stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at those articles that we've been publishing, week after week on this, what it seems it's anything but, trying to snap up distressed businesses. It's either one of two things: you're trying to expand your product lines and what you're offering with complementary products. But I would say even more so, what I'm seeing as I look at these articles is, how do I expand into new locations, right? And we have customers where that's a big deal, right? Like, how am I going to, enter new markets and enter new locations? And what a great way to do that, by buying a company that's established. Like, if you look in the last one here about, acquiring the company that has 2 locations in Tennessee or Indiana or whatever, that's all about expanding your geographical presence strategically. So to me, what I see is a lot of strategic acquisitions occurring more so than fire sales by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I was talking to somebody, we're going to talk about some of my travels here in a few minutes, but I was just talking to somebody at the event I was at this week, and who's another company in the industrial space that's been on a kind of an acquisition, growth focus for a number of years now. And they've acquired quite a few companies, and oftentimes it is a distressed company. But no matter how you slice it, even if you're acquiring a distressed company in this environment, you still have some level of confidence in the economy, because you're still committing capital, you're committing resources, probably some lending, tools that you're going to use to get this done, or leveraging capital in some way, so that if you weren't bullish on the economy, you're not going to be doing acquisitions in any way. And we announce these things every single week, right?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, you were talking a bit about your travel. Our show list is shrinking. Our upcoming show list here is shrinking, but you've been on the road for the last, what did you said, 3 or 4 weeks or whatever the case be.
Yeah, clearly you haven't been with me, because it's been a lot more than that.
Okay. Well, it all blends together on this end.
I think I'm at 5 traveling. Yep.
Okay. So, and it's been pretty intensive. And, I've asked you a couple times, I think it'd be worth sharing with everybody is, as you have been sort of intensively talking to people and meeting with people week after week, what are you learning on the ground? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? You obviously have been talking to a lot of people about technology, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. I think that's great. And I'm going to go back to what we've been saying, I guess, for 15 weeks now in doing this broadcast on Fridays, is that, and you made a great comment, and, far be it for me to compliment you too much, but you made a really good comment sometime last year, as we're starting to feel the little bit of constriction on the economy, and more than the economy constricting was people talking about it, right? And we were talking, and you commented on self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Pundits can, that's what they do, right? If you turn on the news, people are there to talk about both sides of the news. We're seeing that right across the board, and we can talk ourselves into a recession, which is, I think, what could be happening right now. And so it just makes me think a lot about that. And I, to your point earlier, right? And I'll talk about these specific events in a moment, but I've not just been going to events, right? I've been in airport lounges and grabbing a burger somewhere, and at the rental car place. And, you and I are, depending on the time of day and the traffic, between 3 and 4.5 hours away from each other. So, I was up in your office a few weeks ago and spending some time traveling and talking to business people. I just am not hearing doom and gloom, right? It's not that people are, I'm going to have my, biggest year ever next year, but certainly nothing like what you would catch on CNBC or the Wall Street Journal or, your evening news. It's just not what I'm experiencing. And I've been crisscrossing the country kind of recently. So that's kind of the first part of it that I'm hearing. And then I'll tie that more into the event. So in our business, we're closely aligned with a number of both trade associations and buying groups Currently, specifically in the industrial segment, we've got a lot more of that coming into that arena. I'll call it industrial / construction and building materials. We've got customers that we're talking with right now and dealing with that are in the medical arena and so forth. But we're partnered with a lot of these organizations because we want that close interaction, and it's easier to get in front of a large group of people at these events and so forth. So I did, at the beginning of the month, I did the Net Plus Alliance, which is a wonderful partner of ours. Jennifer Murphy and her team there. In fact, San Diego for dinner next week with some of her team that's in town. But they had their great yearly event. It's called All In, that was in Las Vegas. So we had a booth there talking with their distributor members and partners, and two themes, right? In fact, you and I have a call later today with one of their members, and that we met at that show. That's looking at using our software here shortly, and bullish on business growth, right? Not slowing down. Certainly not afraid to be making investments in their companies. And I think I kind of will talk about two things. One is the theme across the board at that event from the people that I met with were, we maybe a few of them I've heard in the last, say month or so of like, hey, we're paying closer attention, right? And some of the global organizations, publicly traded global organizations in the distribution world, I've heard rumors about. I say rumors. I've heard people talking about them cutting back maybe on travel a little bit, but those are companies that are impacted by B2C, not just B2B. But in the day-to-day distribution world, the 5 to 150 location, or 5 to 100 location companies, super positive attitudes across the board. Hey, we're paying attention. We're paying attention to what. I had lunch in Denver on Monday with one of our customers, and they were commenting. They're in the building materials world, and they were commenting, hey, we're watching. They do mostly commercial construction, and if commercial construction ties up a little bit, they'll play in the home building arena a little bit as well. But no doom and gloom, no oh my word, no layoffs planned, no any of those things. So that's kind of the first takeaway. Last week, or I should say this week, earlier this week, Sunday to Wednesday, I got home late Wednesday night. I was in Denver with affiliated distributors at their national meeting for their industrial and safety group, that's bundled group now together for that event. Just a fantastic event. Good vibe, good, same thing, right? As Net Plus was a lot of good folks getting together, sharing ideas, talking about what's working. But I did not, whether it was a cocktail reception, a dinner, breakfast, or people at our booth, was not at all a feeling of, I can't, well, and let me just cut to the chase, right? We were there to sell, I was there to sell our software, right? That's why I was there.
Sure.
Meet with people, introduce what we do and how we help distributors and manufacturers digitally transform, right? Nobody, not one person said, I don't have the budget for that, right? Not one person said, oh, we can't do that because we don't know what's going to happen in the economy in the next year or two. That's
I think it's very healthy, first of all, what you said earlier about people saying what we're keeping an eye on things, or we're watching. I mean, that's healthy to do anyway, right? Even in good times and bad times. So I think that, if there's a bit of a, I don't know, wake up call, maybe too strong a word, but if there's something that, all of the talk and chatter is causing all of us as business owners and business people to say, hey, let's keep a tighter eye and be more efficient and more fiscal responsibility. There's there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think, in some industries, right, the party has gone way to the other side for a period of time.
Yes.
But I also think related to that is, and I think maybe we'll talk about this as well, is, you didn't get, not only did you not hear people that say, I don't have budget, but you see people actually looking at technology and looking to change even maybe more aggressively than we were a year ago when things were quote unquote better. Right. And again, I think that's very healthy. We've talked about this in the past, right? Status quo is really easy to stick with when things are going super well and there's really no, headwinds. But when you start to get a little bit of a perceived headwind and you start to, again, it's all very healthy, right? Now, how do I start moving away from status quo?
I think you're spot on with that, right? And part of it becomes a mindset of how we want to look at that. It's something really triggered for me as you were talking about that. So I mentioned earlier, so I've got this friend that he's a few years ahead of us in high school, Tom, but he's my sister's age, but Clay's here, and he's a manufacturer's rep in Hawaii. His agency's in the electrical market. They cover all the Hawaiian Islands, and he's here on business. But he was here last night with us, and we were chatting and having a glass of wine, and Clay made the comment about something about during the recession. And my wife made the comment, which one? Now, think about that for a moment, right? If you turn the news on today, there's just this, headed to a recession. We might already be in all this talk, right? But if you're in your 50s, you can look back to multiple of them.
Sure.
And here we are, right? I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know anybody, but I know a very small handful of people in the broad network internationally of business associates that I have after being in my late 50s now. I know a handful of people that were impacted by any of the last couple of recessions, right? Does that mean that it didn't happen? No. But does that mean we should go into this with a positive attitude? And, I would use the word prudent for people that are keeping an eye on things, to your point, right? It makes sense, but let's not get wrapped up too far in that.
Yeah. Well, in recessions, people that come out of recessions stronger, right, look at opportunities to change and adapt, right, in that situation. And again, I think we're seeing that, across the board, which is, really, I think, healthy along the way.
Yeah. So I think, you can almost compare that to what we just went through with COVID, right? We weren't expecting it. It was a big change, right? And there's companies that unfortunately went under, right? But there are companies that were moderate companies that adapted and became stronger. And there were good companies that became far better companies through this because they figured out how to adapt, and they're changing the way they do business. I was talking to a gentleman that runs a large distribution organization on, I guess it was Wednesday morning. We were chatting at this AD event in Denver, and he was commenting about how, forever, right, running, they're a large company that he works for, but he oversees all of procurement and all of their, they have a private label program as well in their company. And I remember him telling me during COVID that he had a plan that because he had, become so proficient with Zoom, that for general, meetings with a supplier that said, hey, we have a new nail gun or a new safety glass or whatever it might be. It was like, you don't need to come into my office to do a show and tell. Send me a package of them, or just have me watch a video and let's get on Zoom, right?
Sure.
I know what that nail gun looks like and feels like. I know how to sell a safety glass. I know all of these things. I can just do that on Zoom because this is a guy that, he's probably got 50 people out there that would be willing to take him to lunch every day. And now he's cutting back and saving time on that. And that just came because of COVID, right?
Sure.
So he's getting more hours in his day. Yeah. So back. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So I think, to me, that's a really healthy trend that you saw all the way around. Yeah. And I think we're going to see that continue into next year. But, and I know we want to stay close to our half-hour time frame here. Yeah. So, related to technology, we have a handful of webinars coming up that are really going to be focused on technology. So we have the webinar, and yes, I agree on your good reads there, right? It's a blog post we wrote that talks about, what are some of the things to be thinking about when you're dealing with technology. But we've got the webinar coming up on the 9th, November 9th, with Brian Beck, which will be really how taking what we talked about on our show last week to another level, and how e-commerce and marketplaces fit into your plan, and how that kind of relates to the other, items in your tech stack, if you will, of what you're doing. So that's coming up on the 9th. And we'll be getting you all the information for that, the registration soon. And I know we're also going to do some other webinars around digital transformation, and even just some more, I know you had you said, you kept telling me, right, there were people lined up at the booth wanting to talk to you, and you didn't have enough time to get with everybody sometimes, and all of that. So we're going to be doing a bit more about just Lead Smart, and even sharing some customer successes. It was, Kevin, you were on the call yesterday. It was super cool. We rolled out a new customer, and how excited they were,
Yeah.
and not excited because of just the technology, excited about what that's going to mean for their business and what they're trying to accomplish. And I don't think we share that enough. I think we need to spotlight a bit more, how the proper use of some of these technologies,
Right.
and in our case, customer intelligence and CRM, can be just really, really transformational to the business. So we're going to do some webinars and show some of that, talk about some of the successes we've seen this year with our customers, how they're using it. Because I think it's real easy to talk about digital transformation. When it hits home is when you really see how others are doing it and what it's doing for them. And then you get the ideas of what you're doing. And I'll just say one last thing is, I'm hearing, even in the conversations we had, certainly haven't been on the road like you have, but I'm seeing the level of questions and sophistication and the realization that people are looking at, that, technology isn't just about how to be more efficient or more productive, but how we use technology to really kick our business to another level.
Right.
That's what excites me, right? I mean, I've been in technology my whole career, and that's when I get excited. So anyway.
Well, I think you're right on track with that. So a couple things to go with that, and I'm going to, wow. Second compliment of the morning for you. I'm done for the month.
Yeah, well, the month's almost over, so good.
Yeah, I'm safe. But your this new quoting tool that you and the team have built that allows distributors to get super deep insights into, how many quotes do they have open, who are they with, what are they worth, what closed, what didn't close, why didn't they close? Can we see trends on why some quotes, we didn't maybe get some quotes or win some quotes, stuff that people have never seen. And that's different, right? That's different than just saying, I have a CRM or I have an ERP, right? That's somebody that has taken available technology, this organization that was oohing and aahing yesterday, right? That was on that call. They're seeing how technology will drive revenue in their business. It's not just about, oh, cool, we bought, and I see this, and you asked me earlier about what am I seeing with people. So much in our wholesale distribution world is people have ERP systems, maybe have done a little bit of digital marketing, dabbling in e-commerce, some doing really well, but many just dabbling in e-commerce or getting ready to. I literally, in the last, so this week, we're going to go a couple minutes over, Tom, but this week and last week, I was at the Affiliated Distributors PHCP event in Orlando last week, which is pipe, valve, and fittings, plumbing, air conditioning, refrigeration, HVAC stuff, all of those packed together in an event, great event. And then this week was that industrial safety group in Denver. I literally talked to probably 4 companies that are either approaching or past $500 million in sales, who have one in particular who has homegrown ERP system. They built it, never had a CRM in their business. Now, if you start looking at an organization of that size, pick the number, 1%, 3%, 6%. If technology can help you just move that needle a little bit, it is meaningful, right? And that's what people are starting to look closer at doing. So this tool I mentioned earlier that you guys built, that's why we're going to do some more of these pieces. So I would recommend folks that if you're watching today, if you have the newsletter, take a look. This is also on our website, talking about building a digital transformation plan. Tom, you were talking about webinars. So we're going to do a webinar in November where we're going to do a whole presentation about what does it mean to digitally transform. In fact, the title of it is Digital Transformation Made Easy. We've done it for Net Plus Alliance. We've done it for affiliated distributors and their groups. I think we're going to do it with ISA before too long as well. We're going to do that as a general webinar that we'll announce, and that will tie into our webinar with Brian on e-commerce. And then we'll do another session where we talk about features of CRMs and customer intelligence tools like WeMake. So that'll be great. We're missing on here though, Tom. I'm sorry to keep yapping here, but I'll get these dates over and we'll get the team to add those. We've got this coming week is STAFTA. You can see on there, Specialty Tool and Fastener Distributors Association event in San Diego. We're not exhibiting there, but I'll be touring that. The ISA Fall Summit is in November, and we're helping sponsor that. I'll be at that event. And then what we're missing here that we've got to get added in is the week after that is Affiliated Distributors e-commerce event, which fortunately for me is back in San Diego. So it's just, 45-minute drive down the road to get to that one. So, and then World of Concrete in January is coming up. So lots of good stuff happening.
Yep.
Oh, and I haven't even told you this yet, but, and I'm not going to say who, but we've got a major organization within the distribution world that supports smaller distributors through reselling things and so forth. We've got their CEO that's going to join us sometime real soon too. So,
okay, cool.
I need to get better organized with. I've got the list of guests of people that said yes. We don't have them scheduled yet.
Well, I know we're going to have some good guests through the end of the year, have some good webinars, and anyway, we'll keep everybody posted. All right, we'll let everybody go. Have a good weekend, good Friday, and
thanks, Tom.
All right.
Yep, all the best.